All right, in week 10, we're going to talk about stress and health and human flourishing. And so think about stress and your health and how it can affect your health. One of my professors, when I was receiving and earning my Master's of Science degree, said that stress is something that everybody has. The only individuals that don't have stress are the ones that are living in the cemeteries. And think about that. You know, we all have stress. What I consider stressful in my life, you may not consider stressful, and vice versa. And so we really have to look at what each of us believes the effect on our body is. We have to look at any psychological factors that are going to determine how it's going to affect us. And really, let's look at how stress can affect our immune system. There's been a lot of different research out there that says that stress can create issues and help contribute to infectious disease, to cancer, to heart disease. In fact, one of the major stressors when a woman is pregnant can actually cause quite a bit of issues with the fetus. And so it's encouraged that women that are pregnant are supposed to reduce their stress level to protect that fetus. Stressors can be external or internal events. And think about that. Your life right now, think about what your stressors are. How many of them are stressors that are external and how many are internal? There's the general adaptation syndrome. And there's 3 different stages that we go through with this. And the first stage is where there's some sort of state of shock due to the sympathetic nervous system being basically woken up. Stage 2 would be resistance, and that's really where our body's resources are mobilized to cope with that stressor, or what we perceive as a stress. Now, if that stress continues, then the person is going to enter the exhaustion stage, and anytime an individual is in the exhaustion stage, they really are more vulnerable to disease. And so it's very important that number 1, you realize you are going to have stressors. Number 2, you have to realize how are you going to address those stressors. They need to be addressed, and then move on from there. You don't want your body to get into that I've hit a wall type scenario. Stressful events have been shown to accelerate chronic disease. Crohn's disease, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis, or some of those that are coming to mind, I guess, have been linked with increased stress. Now, it's interesting because stress does not create cancer cells. However, some studies have shown that individuals can be at an increased risk for cancer if they've been experiencing depression or helplessness or bereavement. And so we really look at, within a year of that happening, some of these different risk factors actually increase for some of these diseases. When we cope with stress, there's a couple different ways. According to your textbook, there's problem-focused and there's emotion-focused. An individual that chooses to use problem-focused coping is going to cope directly with the stressor. If you use emotion-focused coping, you're actually going to try and alleviate the stress by avoiding it or addressing the emotional needs that you feel due to that stressor. So for example, Rich is having problems with his father and very stressful, can't seem to come to an agreement with that person. And so to cope, he turns to a close friend for social support. And so would that be an example of problem-focused, or would that be an example of emotion-focused? Well, if we look at the definitions that I provided previously, that would be an example of emotion-focused. You really can't do anything about the behavior of the family member. What he's doing is saying, I'm stressed, I need to figure out how to relieve this stress, I'm going to talk to my great friend, and that's going to help me. And so that's emotion-focused stress coping. Now, there are some individuals that believe they have control over their life, and there are some individuals that believe they do not. And so another way we can look at stress is whether we have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. An internal locus of control is an individual that says, I have control over my destiny. If I'm stressed about A, I can do something about it, whether it's talk to somebody, whether it's, pay my speeding ticket, whatever it is, I have control, I can take care of it. The opposite would be that external locus of control, and that individual believes that basically their fate is going to determine what happens. And so can't do anything about it because fate has given me this opportunity to get a speeding ticket, so nothing I can do about it. And so, think about that. Which type of control or locus of control do you use on a daily basis? Are you more of an individual that says, I can take care of this, I have control over it? Or are you more of an individual that says, hey, can't do anything about it because this is going to happen one way or another? And think about that. Would you have more stress if you have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control? And then finally this week, we'll talk a little bit about happiness. We began with stress, so let's finish up with happiness. Lots of research that says that optimistic or happy people are going to perceive the world as safer. They're actually going to be more healthy and more energized and are going to live more satisfied lives. So there really is a lot of research that says if you can look at the glass half full, you're really going to do a lot better than those of us that might look at it half empty. And we look at our subjective well-being or our thought of our self-perceived happiness. Or our satisfaction in life. So think about that. If you were to be asked what your subjective well-being would be, if 1 was the absolute worst and 10 was the best, where do you think you would rate yourself at this point? And then finally, what can you do about that to change that if you're not happy with where you're at?